Well, Alan Bly, who was the producer of the Smothers Brothers, was from my hometown, which was Winnipeg. And I had started to do things that I had been on The Tonight Show a few times. And I think I even did the sermon on The Tonight Show once. And they heard it, invited me in, and I did it for them. They sort of liked it. The public hated it. It was, well, you know, I think there's a term called presentism, in which you try and judge the past from the standards that exist now. And if you do that, you look at these sermons and they are tame. They're just okay. But at the time, to be dealing with God and the Bible, to say let's put the Christ back into Christmas and the Ch back into Hanukkah, you'd think that I had attacked the Basilica single-handedly. I mean, it was shocking. The letters were unbelievable. I mean, it was so controversial. And of course, Tommy and Dick, and Tom especially, he loved the controversy. He sort of had this messianic thing anyway. You know, I think he thought that he was there to move our generation to the next place. Right. I remember how we decided to do that because it became so historic in a way. The sermons, or the sermonettes as they were called, to soften them, were supposedly the reason that we were thrown off the air, or the Smothers Brothers were thrown off the air. They said, how could you do this sermon the week that Eisenhower died? We had done it like months before, and we didn't, there was no script and we didn't okay it, and there was a whole thing about making sure that CBS okayed the scripts and all that. But I was doing my professor scene, the honk, where I honked a student every time he made a mistake, and sort of the precursor to a psychiatrist scene that I did. And we had done that, and that was what the show was going to be. And then Tommy and I were just standing backstage, and he said, do you have another one of those sermonettes you could do? It was that casual. And I said, yeah. I said, but do you want me to do one? I already did this. Yeah, go ahead, let's do it. It's great. I want to do it. It's terrific. And I did, I think it was Jonah. Because the issue became, what I did with my hands became a very big issue. I said, the New Testament scholars literally grabbed the Jews by the Old Testament. And then the issue became, was I making some reference to testicles? And I said, of course, that's what makes it funny. And they said, well, that's no good. Yes, they probably did. Whatever they felt was too controversial. I mean, it was all controversial. I was making fun of my mind of a non-sectarian theologian, minister, but it was probably a Reform rabbis who I was doing. That's what I had in mind. But we did everything we could to soften it. We had a bunch of priests singing in the background at one point, and again, theologians and clergy were very supportive of this, because all I was doing was sort of playing with the words of the Bible. It wasn't really sacrilege. The sacrilege was that anyone dealt with God in a humorous way. I'd say God with that mystical sense of humor that is only his, destroyed the whole world with this big flood. And just that alone drove people crazy, Baptists especially. Well, I didn't find out that this second show didn't air at all. I woke up one morning to read the New York Times, and on the front page of the New York Times, I saw the name Steinberg. My wife claims that I could find my name through a 30-page, I mean, if it's there in the newspaper, I could open the page to it. But here it was right in front, and I didn't think it was my name. I thought, at that time it was very unusual to be performing with a name like Steinberg. You were someone's accountant if you had a name like Steinberg, not a performer. And I just wanted to see who it was. Was it a relative of mine? What Steinberg was on the front page of the New York Times? And then it was, something like Steinberg throws the Smothers Brothers off the air and controversial sermon. I mean, it was like the biggest thing. I mean, just surprised me. generally the other people there isn't the community in the entertainment industry that you think, but it wasn't a question. Johnny Carson, who sort of was my mentor, and I did almost all of my work on his show, immediately had me on, and in fact gave me a hosting right after that, and it wasn't terrible from that point of view. The move to throw the Smothers Brothers off the air was political. It was that they were making fun of the Johnson administration. They were making fun of the president. God was like a sidekick. God was like Smiley Burnett. It was like no one they really cared about that much. But they said, God, we can make an issue. Here's a guy making fun of the Old Testament. Let's get him and throw them off the air for that, so it won't look like we're throwing them off the air for calling Johnson an old fool or whatever they did. That was a sketch I did at Second City. And I saw these, I looked at these, and I'm humiliated that they're going to be shown, because I noticed that no matter what I do, my kids will only see my hair. It seemed like I emulated Bobby Goldsborough's hair in most of these sketches. I had a big sort of helmet like that went around my ears. But the philosophy sketch also was unusual in that you never had that kind of language, it wasn't allowed on. So the Smothers Brothers were very innovative and encouraging of irreverence and originality. I mean, they just said, what has been unusual and kept you off the air for all these years, that's what we like. That was great.